Temp check. What kind of summer are we having this year? A family road trip summer? A beach bum summer? Or a wake me up when the sun sets summer? With Instacart, choose your own adventure and skip the shopping side quests. Where available, you can get ice cream delivered to your hotel, sunscreen to the pool, or cold brew to your bed. Well, door, in as fast as 30 minutes. Wherever you find yourself this summer, you can get the goods. Download Instacart for free delivery on your first 3 orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum $10 per order. Excludes restaurants. Additional terms and fees apply.
As a person with a very deep voice, I'm hired all the time for advertising campaigns. But a deep voice doesn't sell B2B, and advertising on the wrong platform doesn't sell B2B either. That's why if you're a B2B marketer, you should use LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn has the targeting capabilities to help you reach the world's largest professional audience. That's right, over 70 million decision makers all in one place. All the big wigs, then medium wigs, also small wigs who are on the path to becoming big wigs. Okay, that's enough about wigs. LinkedIn ads allows you to focus on getting your B2B message to the right people. So, does that mean you should use ads on LinkedIn instead of hiring me, the man with the deepest voice in the world? Yes. Yes, it does. Get started today and see why LinkedIn is the place to be to be. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th.
We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
And welcome back to Scarred for Life, the podcast where we open up old wounds by looking back at the films that scared us as kids. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth.
Each episode, our special guest will bring with them a movie that traumatized them as a child.
This week, our guest is Amy Seimetz. Amy is a director, writer, producer, actor, and editor who has appeared in horror movies ranging from indie films like A Horrible Way to Die and You're Next to big budget horror like Alien Covenant and Pet Sematary. She's directed films such as Sun Don't Shine, and her latest feature, She Dies Tomorrow, is currently available to watch on demand. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for doing this. Yeah. We're incredibly excited to talk She Dies Tomorrow because it both like hit us very, very hard.
Yeah.
But before we do that, how did you get into horror? Was it something you've always enjoyed as a kid growing up?
I grew up in the 80s, so I feel like it's like a wash of horror, you know?
Oh yeah.
Mixed with life. But when I was younger, when my parents got divorced when I was really young, like about 2 years old. Mm-hmm. And my sister, what if I started crying right now? I was just kidding.
Oh. I'm just kidding. I'd be like, all right, cool. Everyone just start crying. Like, I'll cry. Terry can cry.
I'll try.
What if I was just like, when they got a divorce, it was a horrible, and I never got over it. I don't even remember them being together, honestly. But, anyways, we got a divorce. Jesus. I can't talk this morning. When they got a divorce, but my dad just kind of, he lost it. But but he went through this like midlife crisis, and he was just like, whatever you want to do when you come here. And my older sister, being 7, I just like followed her around the video store, and she's like, I know what we're doing. We go to Dad's house. So we just went straight to the horror section. and we just pick whatever the cover was that seemed the scariest or the most appealing. My go-to, she used to make fun of me because my go-to was, what was the one? And I would pick it out because I was 2 or 3, or it was a lot of years, but I kept picking out the one where that goblin's coming out of the toilet.
Oh, Ghoulies.
because that's exactly what a 3-year-old would pick out.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how many times you see it. You're just like, that one. I want that one. And my sister would be like, you've already seen this. But so we would just sit and eat Cheese Whiz and eat pizza and chicken wings all weekend and watch back to back horror movies at my dad's. Multiple visits to the video store over the course of just a weekend, because we just sit and watch back-to-back horror movies.
You just describe my 80s too, because I think we're around the same age, and 80s, I'm telling you, people who are growing up now are missing out on walking through a Blockbuster or your local video store and seeing all of the horror movie covers and just being like, oh, I gotta watch this movie.
Mm-hmm. Seriously. Remember Hellraiser?
Oh yeah.
And you're just a kid and you're just pins in the face.
What
have
is
to see
this?
that. Yeah.
Well, and always, we talked about this before, but what's always so funny is when you see a really scary cover and then you watch the movie and it's not scary at all. And you're like, what was happening here? Why did the cover look awesome? And then the movie was not that at all.
Completely. Yeah. Yeah. And then, it's this is, do you guys feel this way where you feel there were so many years apart? You know how this will dovetail into sort of talk about my movie, but when you're that young and you're like, wait, I thought that was so much later, but really because you've only lived such a short amount of time, it was actually the following year or something. I remember being and then my dad was letting us watch these psychosexual thrillers too. My mom, when we'd come home, we'd tell her we watched The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, and she's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And but it wasn't. You know what I mean? To me, in my brain, that was 15 years later, but it was only 3 or 4 years later, it's still, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Going through this podcast where we've been talking about a lot of 80 films, 80s films, I found myself really confused as to what movie I had seen first, what movie I was, what age when I saw it, because when you're right, when you're that age, it sort of all is this kind of ambiguous cloud of movie watching.
Yes, totally. And then, and because we were consuming so much as kids,
mm-hmm.
in that way, where my dad, not just video store stuff, but my dad would it was a very big part of our life was going to the movies as well,
Yeah.
And it was just, and drive-ins actually, why I'm excited that it's playing at a drive-in is I would go to the drive-in so much with my mom and my dad. It was a whole thing.
That's something that I really missed out on, because even though I was living in the time of drive-ins, I grew up in Alaska, and we didn't have drive-ins up in Alaska. So I missed out on all of that kind of that experience that is coming back now, thanks to the current situation we're finding ourselves in.
Yeah,
and
right.
I'm kind of sad that I missed out on that.
Yeah, but you have endless night, right? At some point, so you're just watching movies at home.
It's true. It's true.
Wow.
Yeah.
So kind of transitioning into filmmaking and acting, had you always wanted to be involved in some way in film, or how did that come about? I
always thought I didn't when I was younger, I always thought that I was going to be a doctor,
mm-hmm.
but on the side I would have a hobby as a writer. And when I was around the age of 3, when I was watching massive amounts of horror movies, I also thought on the side I would be a cheerleader too.
Oh, sweet. I like that.
Triple threat
writer,
right there.
Part-time cheerleader and a doctor in the daytime. And then I really thought I was going to be a doctor. And then I did it because I didn't grow up with artists or cheerleaders. But I didn't grow up with artists, so it took a really long time for me to realistically think about writing as a career or film in general.
Yeah.
Writing seemed more attainable in some I don't know why. That's crazy. But like when I think about it now.
No, but I know I had a similar thought when I was a kid too. I was like, writing seems like I like acting, but writing seems easier and like you said, more attainable. Again, don't know where that idea even came from.
I don't know. Yeah, like somehow I had like decided that the pay scale for writers was better.
Oh, I wish it was.
No, I know. No, I say that laughing. I don't know where. I didn't read anything on this. I just like decided. And this is how I educate myself. I just decide. Yeah.
This is happening.
Yeah. And then it was in this really rash decision, as opposed to when I was applying for schools when I was in high school, I was just like, I want to go to film school. Just like suddenly.
Wow.
Oh.
And then
sweet.
And I did at NYU, but I finished at Florida State because it's free.
Hell yeah.
I realized I wasn't going to be making an independent film anytime soon if I had $100,000 debt if I stayed at NYU.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
And so I went to Florida State and I studied literature and art history, and then just met all the people that were in film school. But I was just like, it doesn't matter at this point. I'll just get a degree and then I'll just learn by making and work on everyone's set. And so I would work on everyone's set at the film school. Like Barry Jenkins was there, Adela Zerlansky, David Robert Mitchell was in grad school at the time. I mean, I met all of these people.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Justin Barber. There's just a lot of, yeah. I don't know if you've seen Phoenix Forgotten, but Justin Barber.
I have seen Phoenix Forgotten.
Yeah, he directed that. Yeah.
So
and
cool.
Wes Ball was also there. Do you know Wes Ball? Maze Runner?
Maze Runner. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. Dang.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wild. And James Laxton, who shoots all of Barry Jenkins. I mean, it was all of us that were there at the same time. They were in film school, but
that's so cool. So, She Dies Tomorrow. Can you tell our listeners just a little bit about She Dies Tomorrow before we start talking about it?
Sure. I'm really bad at doing a logline for this movie, so you'll laugh. Yeah. Basically Amy, not me, myself, Caitlin Scheel, played by Caitlin Scheel, and Jane, played by Jane Addams. Basically, how do I do this? Wait, I messed up already. Amy, played by Caitlin Scheel, has this horrible feeling that she is going to die tomorrow, and she just knows it. And then soon we find out that idea is contagious, and the first person that contracts this ideological contagion is Jane, played by Jane Addams, and then Jane goes out and spreads this fear, so to speak.
So, I mean, I obviously, and I'm sure this has been like talked about multiple times since the movie was starting to come out, but like, I get that it's a kind of a prescient movie for like our current situation, but I'll be honest, when I was watching it, the more that like kind of popped up to me is sort of that kind of fear of the culture that we're in, where like it's like politics all the time, and it's this 24-hour news cycle, and there's demagogues everywhere, and it's like information to like the point that you can't tell what's real or what's not. I don't really have a question there, but like I was just kind of curious what like your inspiration actually was for this movie.
Well, you are 100% accurate. So I mean, there's that, and then there's also. I mean, it's that, and just watching sort of how quickly people will take like sound bites and spread it as fact. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like it's easy. It's scary because it's like right, left, center, wherever you are. It's really hard to get to like where the truth is in a lot of ways. But like it's like sometimes the things that spread the fastest are the things that are the easiest to digest, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whereas
when it comes down to like a simple, I'm going to die tomorrow, it's like a simple phrase.
Right, exactly. Where it's easy for like conceptually for everyone to get, and as opposed to if you really drill down to the truth, it's like sometimes the truth is very convoluted and has like multiple weaving, you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
yeah.
Do you want to hear something? Do you want to hear the truth? And do you have 4 hours?
Yeah, like, exactly.
Yeah.
What has it been like to have this movie come out during COVID? Like, has that been surreal for you?
Yes.
Like, that's such a, because I'm obviously assuming this was shot before you even knew this was about COVID, and it's got to be so strange to like be like, oh, I guess this is very relevant for now for other reasons besides the idea of truth. Like, what has that experience been like for you?
I mean, it's weird. Of course, I did not predict this because that's I'm not like Nostradamus or anything. But like, did he actually predict things? I don't know. Or he just say some shit?
I think he kind of predicted things ish, but like it might have just been coincidences at some point.
Okay, because like I just want to start saying shit happened and then become him later. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I just realized that like as I was about to say, I couldn't predict this. Like, what if I just start saying that I did?
That you did?
And then I'm going to say like more outlandish things, and then we'll come on here and we'll like decide what it like I was alluding to.
Like a thought,
you know what I mean? Like it can be random.
Yeah. Cool. I like that. So let's just start a thought experiment on our podcast and like just spread some rumors about Amy and like her predictions about the world, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
It's going to be like our big tweet is going to be Amy predicted everything.
Yeah.
She predicted coronavirus.
Yeah. Build the making of a legend. But no, I haven't had it's weird. Obviously I made it a year or over the course of 2 years before the coronavirus. But I haven't, in terms of, once the film was finished, I haven't had the experience of it not being in coronavirus,
right.
of the viewing experience of, save a few people seeing early cuts. I haven't had strangers, we'll put it that way, see the movie without the lens of the coronavirus.
Right.
So weird.
It's very surreal. But with any movie, you don't know how people are going to receive it, no matter what's happening at the time. But yeah, it's interesting. It definitely, in a way, like for me, selfishly, in a very selfish way, because I'm doing press and because we're so isolated, I selfishly get to have these very interesting conversations. Which was not the point of making the movie, but it's interesting because I get to have these conversations about now and what people are going through right now, which has been like really interesting and great for me.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
I know, like, silver linings, I guess, right? I feel like that's been, like, me this whole time. Is like, what's the silver lining of the situation? Like, what are some cool things that at least have been coming out of this garbage fire of a year?
Yeah.
So, let's talk about death. Sun Don't Shine and She Dies Tomorrow are all about death. And I was just, like, so fascinated with how both of them talk about humanity's relationship to like death, and I just wanted to hear like how you wanted to address the concept of death in these films, especially She Dies Tomorrow, and like your kind of relationship with the concept of death and portraying it on screen.
Mm-hmm. Specifically with Sun Don't Shine, I mean they're both about death to me. I'm very obviously and overtly, but the Sun Don't Shine was more about denial of death.
Okay.
Right.
And that. Because I was taking care of my dad at the time. And even though I knew death was coming, I like wasn't ready for it. You know what I mean? Like even though you know how like people say sometimes like I would get really angry when somebody would be like, well, hopefully he'll pass soon. Sorry. But you know what I mean? And like, because then he'll be at peace. And I was like, fuck off. I'm not ready. Even though I knew that, yes, I understand the concept of that, I didn't like the state that he was in while he was alive, but I just wasn't ready for his heart to stop. There really is something to that feeling. Like you can feel it, like it's gone, Yeah. And so instead, my style is not to like write specifically a story about a girl losing her father. Instead, I wrote Lovers on the Run, and a story about a woman who killed her husband and went off with her lover. Mostly because in addition to that, I shouldn't say it's purely about my dad, because all these things are not purely about these, what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
But I also am obsessed with this movie, Barbara Loden's Wanda.
Yeah.
So I really loved the how she goes on the run with her lover, and he's like this bad guy, and which is its own Lovers on the Run in some capacity. It's a very strange one. But so that, and I loved Badlands and all these things. Anyways, but it was still a denial of death, because I thought, what's a good metaphor to like sort of talk about that? It's like, oh, throw a body in the trunk and like don't let anyone know really what's going on,
right?
Until some at some point in the movie you have to let people know what's happening. But and then their behavior suddenly takes this turn, like it's bizarre behavior. But you're like, what is this weird? Because it takes place in Florida. What is this weird couple doing? And why are she behaving this way? And why are their emotions so like raw? And so when you realize that there's a body in the trunk, it suddenly becomes clear, like, oh, this is like a highly emotional situation. But like the entire movie, she's trying to deny that body's back there, and deny the inevitable of like they're going to get arrested, and they're going to have to deal with this body at some point.
And not to bring spoilers into it, but I mean the movie is a little older now at this point. But like hearing you talk about the kind of inspiration with like the inevitability of and not wanting to think about that inevitability, it kind of puts the end of that movie more into like an emotional like attachment, where she's in the pool, and she's like, should I call the police? And she's like, not yet. It's like this, I want to hold on to this moment just a little bit longer before I know that reality is going to come crashing down.
Yeah. Isn't that terrible? Yeah. I get really emotional when I think about it, because you write stuff and you sometimes don't. I mean, I knew it was denial of death, but I also didn't realize how personal I was writing the movie.
Yeah.
So my dad hadn't even passed away yet when I made that. And and so the not yet like line, I still like, it still really makes me upset.
Oh.
I was going to say, I'm getting like a little choked up over here, like a tiny bit. And I'm just like, ooh, get it together.
Like, what's so funny to me is like when people watch the movie, they're going to be like, what the fuck? Like we're getting choked up about it, but it's like nothing to do with it at all. It's like so fucked up. And Kate's just like a hot mess in it. Like it's just, it has nothing to do with the father. But to me, it does. Like I get choked up thinking about that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, though.
But yeah.
Speaking of Kate, though, she is a phenomenal actress.
She is amazing.
And She Dies Tomorrow has a stacked cast of really fantastic actors and actresses. But like what I loved about the kind of the beginning of She Dies Tomorrow, and to be honest, Sun Don't Shine, is how it kind of starts. Like, you don't really know what's going on. It just sort of, here's the story, we're going to run with it, and you just got to follow along with us. What I think I appreciated was the kind of all the ambiguity that you have in both those films. Is that something that you like, the ambiguous nature of storytelling?
Yeah. I remember Arnie Baskin, who taught at NYU, said this, and he's like, it's just much more interesting to just jump in to a story, like in media res, like I think I took that a little too far when I heard that. Where I was like, great, let's drop everyone in and they have no idea what's happening. But I don't like exposition. I think truthfully, and it's not that I don't, like, when I'm watching something, I start laughing when they're giving me information, because I'm just like, no shit, like I already know what's going on, but I find it to be, I get it for certain movies. Do you know what I mean? I get it for certain movies. I'm not saying every movie is its own thing, but I feel like there's a style to which you don't need it, and it also adds to the story. And I find exposition, and this is the same that Lodge and I treated the girlfriend experience the same way, on my show, and which is exposition becomes like catnip or like crack to the audience where it's like one hit and you want more, you know?
Right.
Where like you're sort of training the audience of how they're going to receive information.
I mean, you can kind of see that kind of piggybacking off of that idea with like another TV show like Lost, where it became everyone was more interested in the minutia rather than the overarching storytelling.
Yeah, that's a good point. Huh.
Exactly. Like if you're explicitly, because you're, and I mean this, like even myself included, who like doesn't like exposition. If they start the movie off by telling me what's happening, and somewhere in the middle of the movie they want to get arty, I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
What is going on?
You're like, absolutely not. Like, this is not what I want. I want more information.
Yeah, exactly. Like even I'm like, I'm not ready for this to get arty on me. Like I don't, you know, or quite the opposite. If it starts out with like a, you know, like an art house film, and then somewhere mid through the movie, they're like, oh wait, no one knows what's going on. And suddenly there's a dump of information that some character's saying. You're just like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just,
it's like someone put the brakes on. It's like they just sort of slammed on the brakes, and it's like, oh, I was kind of jonesing with this vibe. And now it's like,
I was vibing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so I feel like, you know, the ambiguity, to me, it's not like it's the ambiguity it's decidedly sort of ignores those. I guess that's what I decidedly ignore all of that stuff and go, there's a story here. You just have to pay attention. And there's a reason why I'm not giving you certain pieces of information, because the questions I want you to ask have nothing to do with, you know,
the specifics
or, you know, like for instance, in the, like what happens to Craig, which is played by Kentucker, oddly. And then what happens like with Jane getting stabbed. It's like, it's not a movie about like it's not a movie about how. It just is a movie about that it's going to happen. You know what I mean?
That's so funny you bring that up, because Terry and I had a conversation about Craig and Jane's like experiences last night and being like, what happened? And I was like, man, I don't know. Probably it's just for us to interpret.
It doesn't really matter.
I was like, no, it doesn't matter. It just happened. So we had that exact same conversation last night.
Yeah. And then in addition to that, it's like, but I also have to have that in the movie. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I have to have it in the movie because you know, it's a movie about ideas, and ideas there's consequences to ideas. They become real life facts. And I mean consequences. There can be like good consequences, like, you know, there's you know, we drive around in these metal things all day long, and that was an idea somebody had, and they invented it. You know, but at the same time, it's like dangerous ideas become there are also consequences. So like, it's not the how doesn't matter. It's like the feeling of that, you know, whether it's suicide or murder or whatever it is. It's like the idea of I'm going to die tomorrow, or any of these ideas that are happening in a mass hysteria way, they become facts, you know, at some point.
Yeah.
Wow.
You okay?
Yeah. It's just like, so,
she dies tomorrow, everybody. Well, honestly, one of the things, like, I guess one of the last questions I have before we can transition to talking about the other movie is, I've watched this. I mean, Mary Beth and I have watched this movie a number of times between reviewing it and the podcast prep. And one of the things that I sort of picked up on additional viewings is just how, and I hope this is true, how darkly comedic it is.
Yes.
What? No.
Yeah. Like, you're like, excuse me, this is not meant to be funny at all. Very straight-laced.
Yeah. No, I mean, Caitlin Scheel and Kentucker and I, and Jay Keitel, my cinematographer, as well, talk about this all the time, that, you know, I even think Sun Don't Shine is a secret comedy, even though I just talked about how I get choked up. But I find, but just as you can tell, my sense of humor is very dark, and like,
I love it.
Hell yeah.
And so and also not just my sense of humor, it's also in really dark times, I find things really funny because your senses are so heightened. That like when something, and also the juxtaposition, which is like sort of what comedy is, the juxtaposition of like how fucked up something is and then something ridiculous and absurd happening is like during that time is so funny. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like it just becomes incredibly hilarious, and like I've never laughed harder than in the darkest hour, you know, like in the darkest hours.
Well, what I found myself doing this last watch is laughing hysterically over, and it's not funny, but laughing over Amy Googling like leather coats, because the only way she thinks that she can be useful after she dies, to be like nature and everything, is to make herself a coat. And it's absurd, and I loved it.
But I also laughed when he was explaining to her exactly how they skin a body, and she's just like staring at him like, oh no. And I was like, I feel bad that I'm cackling, and like I shouldn't be laughing, but it's just really funny in like the worst fucked up way, but it made me laugh.
Oh, I laughed, like we laughed the entire time, like like when we're making it, like
That's good to hear.
We laughed so much. Like if you talk to like Jane and Kate, actually, I was not laughing this day, but the dinner party scene, they couldn't stop laughing. Like I
believe it.
And like I was actually getting angry because I was like, the sound is unusable. You have to stop. Like it's not your close up, Jane. You've got to stop laughing, because like it would be like on, you know, poor Jennifer Kim's close up, and she just has like a few lines, and Jane just couldn't stop laughing.
Oh jeez.
And then that made everyone else laugh, and like poor Jen is like, I'm trying to like be like play the straight man, and Jane won't stop laughing. But I say that I wasn't really that angry. I was just kind of like, we only have we can't.
Time's ticking.
Yes, yeah. So but at the same time, it's like that's sort of the energy on set. But also with the leather jacket, and then what he needs to, what James Benning, who is a very wonderful experimental filmmaker, James Benning is the leather man, and him describing that, there's also, you know, as like sort of dreamy and sort of where it makes, you know, dreamy and sort of making your head sort of deconstruct that death, the thoughts of death there is this incredibly real, sobering side to it, which is what do you do with the remains, which is a real life, you know, people have to deal with that in real life.
It's a real question that you probably don't think about a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you do with the remains?
Yeah, I mean, I did when my dad passed away, again, like I was like trying to convince my sister that we should make him into fireworks, and like she was like, no, and I was like, why not? Like, what else are we gonna do? You know, like,
holy shit! Wait, I never. Oh my god, you can make someone into fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually amazing. I would love to. That's actually so fun. It's like a celebration. It's exciting.
What I thought. Well, also, yeah, because I thought, and it's also sentimental. I can't believe she didn't go. We actually might be able to still do it. Maybe she'll go for it now that there's time has passed. But it's also like. That's the other dark thing. By the way, the other dark thing. This is so terrible, and I this is actually a very common thing, but that I learned is that so my dad's ashes are still with us, and when I say with us, I mean at my mother's house, who is his ex-wife of 37 years.
Oh.
So he's in my mom's closet right now.
He's in the closet. Like,
yeah. And like every time I come home, like to visit my mom, she's like, can we get rid of him? Sorry, my mom is wonderful. But she's like, can we get rid of him? And I'm like, I really don't want to right now. I'm having a good time. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the last thing that I want to do. Like, so like, just a word of advice is like, if you're gonna get rid of the ashes, like do it really soon after the funeral, because you don't want to revisit it.
Right.
Lingering in your closet.
In my mom's. If it was my closet, I probably would do something. But since it's my mother's, I don't. Yeah.
Wow.
But maybe we can now. I'm just realizing maybe we can make him into fireworks now.
That'd be amazing.
That would be
Yeah.
amazing.
That'd be a great way to send someone off, I think.
Literally.
Mhm.
In the sky.
So due to Amy's press schedule, we didn't record what we've been watching recently with her. So Terry and I are going to do a little one right now. So Terry, what have you been watching?
Well, one thing that I watched, I should say, I was not anticipating talking about because it literally came in to me today.
Oh.
But I have seen the first 3 episodes of Lovecraft Country.
Oh my God, tell me everything. Sorry, Steve just got the book in the mail, so I'm like very excited to read it and watch it.
So you haven't read it?
I have not read it, no.
Okay. I have only read like the first third of it.
Okay.
And what surprised me about the book and kind of why I stopped a little bit is that it's actually short stories of sorts.
Okay.
All about like the same characters, but like they're little vignettes.
Oh,
So like
okay.
I thought and most of the trailer for the TV show has focused on the first story. And I honestly thought that the first season of the show was going to take that first chunk of story and like flesh it out and make it a full season long, which I was kind of intrigued with, but also a little worried about because like some shows that are like artificially brought out to like 10 episodes sometimes lose their focus.
Yeah.
Well, it's basically the book so far.
Oh, okay.
The first 2 episodes are the first story, and the 3rd episode is the second story in it. And I'm actually really wanting to read the book now because the 3rd episode, like, I was like, oh, so this is just basically going to be kind of an anthology series where it's like 1 episode per one of the stories or something like that. But it actually has a little cliffhanger at the end of the 3rd episode that like has me intrigued.
Okay.
So basically, for those that don't know, it takes place in the 1950s. It's about a young African American. He lives in Florida and he goes back home to Chicago because he gets this mysterious letter from his father. When he shows up in Chicago, his father is gone to a place in Massachusetts called Lovecraft Country, where there's a place that's called Arkham instead of Arkham. And so his uncle, and his childhood friend, Letitia, decide to go try to find their father. And that's kind of where the show starts.
Okay.
It is really good.
Hell yeah. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's like a mix of pulpy, like kind of story that Lovecraft would write, or that like the Conan stories. What was his name? Those kind of like stories from that time period. And it meets that with definite pulpy moments. But it also has a very strong, obviously, social connotation to it. Robert E. Howard, that's what I'm thinking of. But it also has a very strong social commentary of the time, and the way that the two intercross definitely kind of reclaims, in a way, some Lovecraft stories.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I'm really excited to see where it's going to go. I think fans of the book are going to really love it. I think people that might not know that it is anthology, or that I use anthology like loosely, but that's going to be like individual storylines that have a greater connection, possibly. Might be a little surprised by it, but it's really good.
Cool.
And then the other one I briefly want to talk about is I saw Blackwater Abyss, the
how's that?
Pseudo sequel to like Blackwater, about the crocodiles in the mangrove forest.
Okay.
Have you ever seen the first one?
I have not, no.
It's on Tubi.
Okay.
I hadn't seen it either until I took part in that Boom Howdy Tubi or Not Tubi series that Adrian Torres is doing right now.
Oh, yeah.
So the sequel, it's kind of like Blackwater, where it's a group of people. In this case, they're stuck in a cave that's like submerged. It's sort of like 47 meters down Uncaged, or like The Descent, where they have to like be quiet and move slowly because the crocodile senses vibrations in the water, and it's dark and it's terrifying. I've realized I've tweeted this out recently. I realized I don't really like the dark in movies and stuff. Like, it sets me on edge. And so this movie definitely like set me on edge a lot of the time, but the characters are terrible.
Oh.
They're one note. And there's like an interesting dynamic that emerges at the back half of the film, but like, I kind of wish that instead of having like 5 characters, they had 3 like the original, and actually focused on those character dynamics more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like, it just sort of, they're really boring.
Oh.
Until like the last 20 minutes, I guess, is when like things start to get a little interesting on the character dynamics aspect. But it's good if you just want a creature feature and have like crocodiles jumping out at you and from the darkness, you're going to really enjoy it.
Oh, sweet. Sounds good. Cool.
What about you? What have you been watching, Mary Beth?
So on your amazing recommendation, I checked out Open Water 3 Caged Dive. It's called Cage Dive, but they slapped Open Water 3 on it, and it has, I think it's just because they had similar, like those three movies have similar premises in terms of people getting trapped in open water and getting kind of picked off one by sharks.
I think they actually did that with the second one too. Like I think the second one was not an open water movie.
I did not see the second one. I heard it was so bad, so I didn't.
Oh god, it was terrible. It was so terrible.
Yeah. So Open Water 3 is found footage. Mm-hmm. So of course I had to watch it. It's three people, two brothers and one of the brothers' girlfriends who go to Australia to go cage diving because they are auditioning to be on a reality show or to have their own reality show. So they want to go cage diving and do like extreme stuff to show how extreme they are. And of course they get stuck in open water, and it's about kind of the three of them trying to survive in the water. Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it. It's like, it's fascinating what people can do with such like a basic premise, because there's a really awesome use of night vision in this movie, which is really terrifying. I think that the shark attacks are really, really cool. And there's something about this movie, like outside of the shark attacks, that kind of like fear that they're all experiencing sitting in the water and kind of being like, holy shit, like we're not getting rescued, and like their fear that is kind of bubbling up over time. That desperation I feel like is captured really well, and it's kind of heartbreaking in a way. It does have a very Blair Witch Project moment where a girl is at the camera and like saying bye to her mom and dad, which is like very cliche, which was like, okay, we get it.
I didn't even catch that.
We get it. I understand. But besides, I mean, like, whatever, it's fine. I really enjoyed it. So I know that you watched it and you didn't like it as much as I did. I know that you thought the characters were insufferable, correct?
Yeah. I really did. I was so annoyed by them by the end of the movie. But
I didn't think they were that bad. Maybe I've just watched so many found footage movies with terrible characters that like my threshold for bullshit is higher. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, I also found I thought the shark effects were actually really good.
Yeah, they were really good.
And I thought that the moments involving the sharks were actually pretty scary and intense.
They
particularly
were.
that night vision one. So I'm with you there. The characters were meh.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. And like, I think one of the problems with found footage in certain films is that people really want to force these like interactions between people and like force drama between the characters, which is like kind of the case in this one, where it's like, it feels like they kind of fabricated a whole like scenario that would make it feel even more dramatic and more intense. And like, I understand the kind of thought behind that, but I also don't think it's always necessary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to have some like weird scenario between all three of them to like make us care more about the characters.
Right.
And so that kind of was just like, eh. But regardless of that, I still really enjoyed it. I yelled and grabbed my face at a couple parts. So
me too.
I can't complain about that.
And it's novel, right? I can't think of another movie that involves like aquatic horror. Well, I guess aquatic horror because of the bay, but like out in the ocean. Or
like shark found footage. And so,
I mean, that should be enough to go check it out.
Right?
I
exactly. If you are a shark, if you like aquatic horror, it's like Open Water 3 is definitely something you should check out. It's free on Tubi. It's great. It's short. We love that. Again, found footage just knows how to stay short. I love it when found footage movies don't overstay their welcome. It's just like, mwah, perfect. Like the host. 56 minutes. Mwah, perfect. It just makes me happy. But in very exciting news, everybody, I finally watched all 7 movies in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
I know, I'm so excited.
I am so sorry for sleeping on this franchise, everybody.
Goddamn right.
Goddamn. I will say 5 and 6 were a little bit iffy, but that's okay. Yeah. They still were enjoyable to watch. They still have some awesome kills, and like the creativity, like regardless of what you think of the writing and like what happens, you cannot fault the creativity of every single installment. Like,
Yep.
the kills are like consistently just so fucking wacky, but so cool. Freddy is just like fucking camp as shit, and I love it. Was it the sixth one where he's the Wicked Witch of the West?
Yes.
I just 1 through 4, I absolutely just like fucking adored those, and I love 7 too. So really, honestly, like 5 out of 7 hits. Not bad for a franchise, right?
Not bad.
Not bad. And so I haven't seen the remake. I don't really want to see the remake. I don't think I need to see the remake.
No, please don't.
I'm just not going to waste my time. But I just was blown away. I don't know. I just am so glad I finally watched them. I think it's such an interesting like franchise where I know Freddy is the main villain, but it feels so much more character focused to me than like other slashers. Like obviously,
especially the first 4.
Yes. Like, obviously he's like the draw, but I feel like, again, I'm not as big into slashers as a lot of people. So like, this was kind of my first really big deep dive into a slasher franchise. But I was really impressed with how these films really deal with childhood trauma and are really character driven rather than like trying to just force Freddy into every frame. I think I really enjoyed that it was like Freddy was used as kind of like a backdrop rather than like a centerpiece in at least the first 4.
Right.
Which I really enjoyed because I feel like I haven't really seen Friday the 13th movies. I haven't seen any more Halloween movies other than the first one and the remake. So please correct me if I'm wrong, but they all feel like it's just vehicles for those villains rather than like the characters they create.
That's my opinion. That's why I'm a Fred head. That's why I will support this franchise over any of the other ones any day because there's more to it. And like you said, the kills are so inventive. They're so inventive.
Like, and that's what's so cool about having this dream realm. It's like anything is possible. Yep. So it really like it reduces any kind of limitations like on what is realistic because like the sky's the limit with your dreams. And so that really does open up the weirdest, most fucked up possibilities of like what.
And they really go for it.
They do though. They're just like, all right, we're just gonna like put this girl in a bug trap and make her turn into a bug. That was fucking gross, but it was so good. Like what the fuck?
Yeah. So I'm gonna put you on the spot though. What's your rankings?
Okay, thank you. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm not okay. Let me just give you one.
People are going to come for you regardless of what you say,
and that's why I haven't tweeted it out because I'm scared about the reactions to my ranking. Are you ready for this ranking?
I'm so ready. Okay. I'm like excited. Listeners, I don't know what's gonna come out of her mouth.
We should fuck Amy Seimetz. We'll just tease that Mary Beth reveals her Mary Elm Street ranking in the episode.
Oh, you got to believe that I'm using this as a teaser.
Okay, so fuck. It's hard because I have a hard time placing 7.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why I have a hard time placing 7, but I do. Okay, so I'm gonna go from my favorite to least favorite.
Okay.
Oh wait, should I do the opposite? Whatever. I'm gonna stop overthinking it. I'm trying to get out of doing this, is what you can't tell that. I'm trying to get out of it. Okay, First Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite. Followed by 3, Dream Warriors. I'm gonna do 4.
Okay.
Which is
the Dream Master.
7, New Nightmare. 2.
Yeah.
Freddy's Revenge. 5 and 6.
Okay.
So 1, 3, 4, 7, 2, 5, and 6.
All right, that's fair.
And I feel bad, like I liked 2 a lot.
Yeah.
And I was like really into it when I saw it, and then I saw 3 and 4, and I was like, shit, like I'm sorry too. And I did really enjoy it, and I love that it's a Scream King, if that's what we're calling it. Like I love that it's a final boy. I love that there's all these like queer aspects to it. I think it's such a fascinating film. But then there's like the parrot scene. Like there's some really weird parts to it that make no sense. But the parrot scene is literally my favorite moment in the entire franchise because it's like so fucking wild. Like the birds escape and then it explodes. Like
yeah, I'd actually really recommend going if you haven't listened to them, listen to the Kill by Kill podcast where they talk about the second one because it's. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm on one of the episodes, but like it actually
self-plug.
It actually is it's probably my favorite of their like movies that they've done on it because it's such a ridiculous movie. But actually your ranking is not controversial.
Oh, it's not?
No. Not at all.
Well, that's good.
Like a lot of people really like the third one. Like that is
I really loved the third one. It was so good.
People really like it a lot.
I loved it.
I'm not as huge of a fan.
That's fine. But I did also really love 4. Like, yeah. I really liked that one a lot. And I like the thing is, I feel bad about 5 and 6 because, like, I know everyone talks about their trash, but like, despite like the issues with 6 that I have, I can't fault like the full on just campiness of it at parts.
It really goes
and, like,
for it.
It's the only one in the series directed by a woman, which is awesome. I'm so glad that a woman directed it. And I also like hope that people can like see that and be like, okay, cool. Like, women can make mistakes in movies and like it's not damning. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, sometimes people are just people and they direct not great movies, and like that doesn't mean they're a bad director. That just means they made not a great movie. But also, like, again, there's some really awesome weird parts to it that I appreciate. So this is me trying to say that despite the issues in the franchise, it still kicks ass, and it's still cool to watch. So
hell yeah.
And
I'm telling you, some of those effects hold up today.
They so do. It's wild. And the 5th one, I think, is when it's the 5th one or the 6th one where he gets sucked into the comic book.
Oh, that's the 5th one.
That's the 5th one. That was really cool.
Yeah.
The effect of him getting sucked into the comic book. Oh, there's like so many, like, I think the most squirm-inducing moment for me was in the 3rd one where he has the needle fingers and her track marks start like making little noises at her.
Yeah.
Oh, that was awful. It was also really fucking sad and upsetting, but also really gross. I'm also terrified of needles, so like that plays a role in it. But oof.
Yeah.
What's the scariest moment for you? Or the grossest moment?
The grossest moment is Greta being fed herself in 5.
Oh God, ew, that's right. Oh, I forgot about that one. That was so gross.
And like I think in like the version that people are able to see, it's not as clear. But like in the uncut version, that I believe, don't come for me, I believe was only available on VHS here in the States. I don't think they released it in any other cut. But I believe it actually has a brief scene of him like stuffing his fingers in her stomach and then feeding it to her directly. So like it's even more pronounced that he's feeding herself to herself, and it's really kind of gross. But I mean, that's the grossest one for me.
Yeah.
But
well, and that's what I've been watching recently.
There you go.
Awesome. And so now back to our talk with Amy.
Yeah.
So, Amy, we've talked about your work, but what movie have you brought with you to discuss today?
I brought, and this is from the canon of the divorced years in the 80s, is The Gate.
There is a passageway to the most evil place you can imagine. A gate behind which the demons wait to take back what was once theirs. And now, someone has opened the gate.
And there's this weird tearing sound. There is the decomposed corpse of her dead father.
Oh no. No.
He's tearing out hair by the hands.
I'm calling the police.
You got demons.
I mean, you guys are serious about that demon stuff? Demons? What kind?
You've been bad!
They have opened the gate. Pray it's not too late.
The Gate. So, for those of you unfamiliar, The Gate follows 2 young boys, Glenn and Terry, who accidentally release a horde of nasty pint-sized demons from a hole in a suburban backyard. What follows is a classic battle between good and evil as the 2 kids struggle to overcome a nightmarish hell that literally begins to take over the earth.
Bum, bum, bum.
So, Amy, paint us a picture. How old were you when you first saw this? Where were you when you first saw this? What scared you the most when you first saw this movie?
I am gonna say I was probably 5.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Right? What year did that come out?
It came out in 87.
Then that would make sense. 5 or 6. Yeah, that makes sense. 5 or 6. God, sorry, my dad lived in like a bunch of different houses, and I was trying to remember the house.
Yes.
Yep, I know that feeling.
I know that feeling for sure.
So I think I know the house, but it was 5 or 6. It was like kindergarten, first grade-ish.
Okay.
But I also kindergarten, first. Yes. That's when I saw it.
Was this one where your sister and you were walking through and just picked it up, or how did you go about seeing this movie? What enticed you?
That was. Yes, it was my sister and I picked it up. It was we picked the box out, and I remember watching it, and like we were look, it was the 80s, and I'm going to say this, I don't think this ever happens now, but like we were latchkey kids, you know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So like my sister would babysit me, and we were like young, but and I fear saying that because I don't want anyone to attack my mother or my father, but like.
That's why it was in the 80s.
But I feel like a lot of people we've talked to on the podcast that grew up in the 80s all describe themselves as latchkey kids. Like, I feel like that was just the way it was.
Right.
And, like, it just was. Yeah.
That's just the way it was. And so I think that's why this movie actually stuck with me, is because it's these kids being left like at home where their parents like go away, you know, and then like these demons, these claymation Gumby like demons come out, and like and if you look at it now, like as an adult, you look at it, it's like really fun and funny. But I was just like I was so traumatized by it. Like, yeah.
Well, you know, it's funny because like I don't think Mary Beth or I had ever seen this movie.
I hadn't.
It's one where like when I was growing up, and I can't believe that I haven't seen it, because like I went through so many different horror movies at the time, and it's a PG-13 one, so it's not like it's even an R-rated movie. And I was, at the time of this came out, I was busy binge watching, you know, an Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and for some reason my parents would not let me rent this movie, but I made up such like a story of it in my head because the cover is very evocative. I love the kind of like the gate in the ground and like the claws pulling themselves out of it.
Yeah.
But like as an adult, it's still kind of a dark movie. Like I was surprised at how nasty it is.
It's really nasty.
It's so nasty because I was like, I got the vibe. It felt like a kid's movie at first, like kind of a kid's movie, and then the ending, I was like, oh no, this is like really kind of nihilistic in a way, as like like little baby Stephen Dorff is like sacrificing himself to save his friend and his sister. Oh my god.
Come back here! Take me instead! Come back! What do you want, another sacrifice? Come back! Take me instead! Come back! Come back!
Yeah.
Like, Jesus, like you're like, what, 8 or 9? Like you're so...
Well, it also plays with like it plays with so many ideas in there. And like in this way that I find, like as a kid, and just like thinking, well, as a kid, but also as an adult, like one of my favorite movies is Zwolski's Possession, you know?
Oh my god,
I love that
what
movie.
a good fucking movie.
And so like if you think about sort of like how crazy, like the tone of that movie, and then also in The Gate, the tone of it, or like where it goes wild, and you're like, and you can't really predict it. It's like, that is if the devil came. You know what I mean? Like that is what it, like, it's chaos, you know, it's complete chaos, and like it doesn't, there is no, like, even the emotions in her, like Isabella and Johnny's like, you know, freak out, like dance routine. That's not the good word for it, but you know, the dance performance, it's like, it's so unhinged. In this way that it's like, there is no, it needs to feel unhinged. It needs to do. And so there's like in The Gate, just with being a kid, it's like, there's also, they play around with like, almost like, not body snatcher, but you know what I mean? Like more like thinking you can trust this person because they're familiar, but you can't, you know?
Yeah. One of the notes that I took down when I was watching it last night is that this is like baby's first Cthulhu. Like this is like a kid friendly, like cosmic horror type thing, because there's like, it plays with madness, it plays with these demons that are at one point Terry, which I felt kind of attacked because I'm like, that's my name. I don't usually see my name in like movies, but he's like talking about how these creatures are older than the Bible.
Right, now what do we do? The Bible. What? Prayers. The Bible. That's what they always use. These guys are older than the Bible.
Like it has this kind of like, even beyond the kind of satanic panic kind of feel of the film, it has like a cosmic eldritch horror of like, these creatures have existed beyond time immemorial. And even at the very end, it's almost like their world starts to come into our world.
Yeah.
And there's like the madness of like, the scene that like really kind of affected me is actually when Terry comes down to go see his mom who's dead. And she's like, I need you, I love you. And he's actually dancing with the dog.
Angus.
Like, it's darkly funny, but like fucked up.
No, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. It's chaos. It's chaos.
It's
like
chaos.
Yeah. But that's what's fun about horror, right? Is
Right.
you can like, you can get away with like some of these things, you know? You can get away with complete darkness and humor, like gallows humor at the same time. And these really bizarre sort of ideas of like, you know, really like really dark things. I'm just remembering that movie. I know that after I watched that, because there also is a Gate too.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one either. Is it?
It's not as good.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sort of. It's not as good, but in my opinion, in my you know, very expert opinion. But I remember. Even still, there's, you know how certain things stick in your brain where I still sort of like give fences, like wooden fences on the ground. I still have I still have something that I give it like a second look.
Like a side eye?
Yeah, like what's that covering?
Right.
You know, like what is that hiding?
Yeah.
But I was like really terrified as a kid of like, you know, lifting something up and opening the portal to hell, you know?
You know
what I mean?
Normal everyday kid fears.
I had a similar thing though when I would swim underwater, like in like I live near the Chesapeake Bay, so I would swim underwater, and I would imagine I would find a dead body every time I went under the water. I don't know. I think they came from Poltergeist when all the dead bodies come out from the pool.
Right.
So I had the same thing. I was like, I'm going to find a dead body underwater. I never did.
Do you still think about that? Like, do you still have like a little like ping of it?
Yes, I definitely do.
Yeah.
Yes, I definitely do.
I do too, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, but like ever since I saw Jaws, and I saw Jaws and I lived in Alaska, and we had indoor pools, and I did not like swimming on my back because I was afraid that the shark was going to be able to come up from the bottom and I wouldn't be able to see it coming to attack me. And I still think about that now. If I'm like on my back, I'm like, oh boy, I can't see what's underneath me.
Yeah.
Who
It's
knows?
really weird.
It's so weird.
I have sorry.
sorry.
You want me to go?
ahead.
I have this thing. So I came up with this boogeyman when I was little. And basically the rules of the boogeyman were the only thing he lived for was that he wanted to come and get me, right? And and that's all he wanted. That's his only goal in life. I'm very narcissistic.
Only me.
Only
no one
me.
else.
Nobody. He had no other goals. So but the rule is he had to walk, right? But so he couldn't like fly. He didn't. But he had to walk. But his body would stretch. So like if he was going across the ocean, his body could stretch so that his head was above water, but his feet were like walking across the ocean. And so, but I had the power to, if I remembered to think about him, I could send him back to China. I could go back to China, and then he'd have to start over. And so,
oh wow.
And so sometimes, like as a kid, I'd be like, oh my God, I haven't thought about him in a long time. Go back to China. He's probably around the corner. And like, go back to China. And still to this day, I'm making a joke, but like something in my brain is just like, I wasn't that funny as a kid. And then I'm like, go back to China.
Go back to China.
Exactly, like, just in case though, like just like as like a Band-Aid, like who knows?
It's like
I mean, you have a movie here. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing that I do when I'm like, I don't believe in God, and I'm like, just kidding, God, like just kidding inside my head. I'm like, just kidding, sorry.
I do that too. Growing up Catholic will do that too. I swear to God.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like, I don't believe in you, and you're like, just kidding. Please don't smite me where I stand. Like,
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
But horror films do that, like to
yes,
yeah. They're very good at like injecting that like, little slender of a thought that sort of like percolates over the years. It seems like. Mm-hmm. Do you remember in particular what scenes like stood out at you as a kid?
Well, anything coming out from under the bed. I mean,
okay.
And then the other thing is when they like chop one of them and it like spreads out like worms. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And like,
when like the arm gets stuck in the door and it like turns into these almost like spermy creatures.
Exactly. Like all that stuff where it's like you can't kill it. And it's like in growing up in Florida, I don't know if you know this, but like it reminded me, it was very tactile and very real to me because if you like, I never did this because I'm not cruel to animals, but like if a lizard's tail comes off, it like keeps moving. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So like, and it just keeps moving. So like to me, it was like, this is real. This is like really something that could happen because it's just like a lizard's tail. But
wow. Yeah, I could see that.
And then the Barbie dolls in the eyes, definitely.
Oh my gosh,
definitely
that scene. I was surprised that scene was in this PG-13 movie because it's very brief. Like I wonder if they had to cut some stuff to make it kid friendly, but like it's pretty graphic.
Yeah, it's really graphic. And who'd have thought? Like the other thing was like suddenly I was like, my Barbie is a weapon, you know?
Right.
Yes.
Like, God, good to know. Yeah.
Horror movies are so good at that, making you realize that like everything's a weapon, and you're like, oh, I didn't know that my nice like cute doll could be used to stab someone in the eye, but now I know, and I'm prepared in case I need to do it. Like, all right, great.
It's a good life lesson.
Good life lesson. I also wanted to give a shout out to this movie for having an amazing brother-sister relationship. I feel like I'm so used to movies having like the older sister and the little brother hate each other. But this is like weirdly wholesome. I mean, I know it's pretty graphic, but like their relationship is so sweet, and it's kind of nice seeing like a very like happy relationship between brother and sister, and like how she's actually just like a really good supportive sister, I guess. Because I feel like siblings always hate each other in horror movies. So it's so cool to see like they support each other, and she got him a rocket from the mall with her last of her money. I was like, oh my God.
I literally went, when like she slugged off the beach to like buy this rocket for her brother.
I thought you were going to the beach today.
I was, but I spent all my money.
On what?
What, are you going to just stand there, or do you want to launch it?
I think, oh, that's so sweet.
Like, I also feel like, to me, I got even more emotionally invested in the movie because of that relationship. Mm-hmm. I was like, I want them to make it out together. And like, you know, because sometimes like the evil sibling or mean sibling will get got, and you're like, oh, that's good. That sibling was annoying. But this one, it was just like, I want them all to survive. Like, please.
Completely. Yeah. And it also feels, like you're saying, is like, there's something like real about the like them and the house and their relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, and then the demons come, but like, but you know what I mean? Like,
normal, right?
It just felt like, because my sister and I had we were really close, like very close. And I mean, she was mean to me sometimes, but that's normal, you know, but we were extremely, extremely close. So it was just like, I don't know. It just felt like, especially, I hope my mom doesn't listen to this, like, especially when you're a latchkey kid and you like kind of depend on each other, you know, for stuff. Like, my mom is wonderful, but like, but there is like, there's just something, because it's a very real fear when you live, when you're a latchkey kid, and like, you're like, what if something fucked up happens when we're like alone, you know, like what if like, and not demons, but like a stranger comes and does something really fucked, you know what I mean? Like those are real things that like you have to like process when you're a kid that's, you know, coming home from school and making nachos in the microwave. Like, you know what I mean? Like in addition to that,
Right.
it's like,
Yep. Yeah.
You have this like carefree air, but then there's this kind of like edge of danger that is just like lurking right outside, potentially outside the door.
right. Yeah.
As an adult, what kind of like freaked me out a little bit is how pissed the parents are going to be when they get back home and the house is destroyed. I felt so bad for Al, the sister, because like, you know, nothing that happens in this house is her fault, but her house is fucking destroyed, and the parents are so going to blame her.
Right, completely.
They're gonna be like, there was a demon. They're gonna be like, shut the fuck up.
Right.
Like, there's no way. And you're like, I swear.
Yeah.
These moths broke the window. These demons try to crawl out of our living room place, but don't worry, we sent them back to hell. Like,
we got it. It's cool.
No one's gonna believe that.
Yeah, exactly. And like, who would? Yeah.
So do we want to give us our final ratings out of 5, Terry?
Yeah, sure.
So Terry, how many Barbies to the eye out of 5 do you give The Gate?
You know, I actually, like I said, I hadn't seen this as a kid. I didn't know exactly what to expect going in, other than like I remember the gif of what I guess is being called the Workman, where he like tumbles over and turns into like a bunch of the little demons, which I think is really cool. But like, I didn't really know what to expect, and I actually really enjoyed this movie a lot more than I thought I was going to. Because a lot of times movies don't age very well, but I thought that a lot of the themes in here were really interesting. I really liked how the film actually made metal music a good thing, because in the 80s it was such a decried, like the satanic panic of like Dungeons and Dragons, and metal music was going to lead kids to hell. And in here it was like,
What's this? It's the album. Backwards. Tells you how to close the gate.
no, this is how we're going to save ourselves from the demon. And I thought that was kind of an interesting reversal at a time when like Reagan era politics was such a huge thing.
Yeah.
So like, I think I'd give this either a 3.5 or a 4.
Okay.
Barbie dolls to the eyes, to be honest.
Cool.
What about you, Mary Beth?
I would give it 4 Barbie dolls to the eye out of 5. One, I love a little Stephen Dwarf. I think he's very attractive, and it was weird to see him as a child.
So weird.
That was a very strange sensation. But I think I really was expecting kind of like a cheesy 80s movie, which I love, but this was like had much more heart than I was expecting. Like the central 3 characters were lovable and silly and fun, and the effects still hold up pretty well.
They do.
Really awesome practical effects between like the stabbing out his parents' eyes and all the goo and the little demon monsters and the giant tornado at the end. I was so impressed with how much it held up and how much it made me sad in a way. Like, it definitely hit me more emotionally than I was expecting. So I will give it 4 out of 5. Amy, how many Barbie dolls to the eye do you give The Gate?
Well, I'm going to have to give it 5 because of the sentimental.
Awesome. Yeah.
The sentimental aspect of it. Because I think, it's like, it's hard for me to not watch it and feel childhood in some way, like to watch it and be like, oh, this is like so nostalgic. Like the nostalgia for me like wins. So I have to give it 5.
Awesome.
But I did have a lot of Barbies, so I could give it like a dozen.
There you go.
You're like, we don't have rules here, so like you can do that.
Yeah. Dude, you were prepared. All those Barbie dolls. If there was a demon coming, you could like, you were
ready to go.
I was ready to go.
Armed for days. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for joining us to talk about The Gate. Where can our listeners find you, and what do you have coming up you'd like to share? And can you tell us a little bit about your role in Arch Enemy?
I'm sort of like a half Twitter person. I'm not like a big social media person, and I'd be boring to follow because all I do is promote movies that I make and am in. But you can follow She Dies Tomorrow and Neon, both on Twitter and then also on Instagram. And then let's see, what do I have coming up? Yes, Arch Enemy that I acted in. I don't think I can tell you what I do in it yet.
We tried to like pull a little bit out of Adam when he was our guest, and he wouldn't talk too much about it either. So we had to try. I don't think that I can say anything, but it was very fun. It was, we'll put it that way.
And then I also acted in this mini series that's coming out called the Comey Rule, which is about James Comey and like everything that went down prior to the 2016 election. It's really the cast is amazing, and I'm friends with Scoot McNairy, and to watch him. And I don't want to say anything because it's just like he's such an amazing actor. Everyone is an amazing actor in it, but everyone like sort of blew my mind on that. I was way over my head acting in that.
Wow.
Way over my head. Definitely made me wonder why anyone hires me. But
I doubt that's true. But imposter syndrome is real.
Yeah, it's real. And I always wonder when I'm going to get fired when I get hired. But it's never happened. It's never happened. I don't know why I still think that. And then I'm also in The Secrets We Keep, which Chris Messina, who's in my movie, is in, and Noomi Rapace and Joel Kinnaman. I think that's I sometimes don't remember what I've done.
That's fair.
Yeah, and then my movie. So there we go. I think that's enough, right? That's enough.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So listeners, you've heard from us, but we want to hear from you. What was your experience with The Gate? Send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com or reach out to us directly on Twitter. I am at MB McAndrews.
And I'm at Gaily Dreadful.
And of course, keep the conversation going by chatting with the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe.
Thank you to Steve Barnold for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you to everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there. Most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time. Oh, yeah, I have to end it.
You do.
Won't somebody please think of the children? Won't somebody please think of the children? Somebody please think of the children!
As a person with a very deep voice, I'm hired all the time for advertising campaigns. But a deep voice doesn't sell B2B, and advertising on the wrong platform doesn't sell B2B either. That's why if you're a B2B marketer, you should use LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn has the targeting capabilities to help you reach the world's largest professional audience. That's right, over 70 million decision makers all in one place. All the big wigs, then medium wigs, also small wigs who are on the path to becoming big wigs. Okay, that's enough about wigs. LinkedIn ads allows you to focus on getting your B2B message to the right people. So, does that mean you should use ads on LinkedIn instead of hiring me, the man with the deepest voice in the world? Yes. Yes, it does. Get started today and see why LinkedIn is the place to be to be. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system. If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served. Hi, I'm Detective Dave. I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood. So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished. From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.